here at a very special cafe. It's like no other cafe I've ever been to. It's here in Nicaragua, close to San Juan del Sur on the way in. And what makes this place so special is not, well, let's talk about the name first. The name is Nicafe, not Nica Cafe. Could you tell me what's going on there?
Well, it's a kind of, it puts together Nicaragua, cafe, and faith in Nicaragua, because fe means faith.
Right.
So it's faith in Nicaragua, it's a cafe, it's in Nicaragua, Nicafe.
It's a whole lot of stuff in the name. I love it.
Right.
Okay, so now what makes this place special and a little different than any other cafe I've ever been to is that you employ deaf people here in your cafe.
That's right.
Could you tell me like where that idea came from?
Yeah, I knew a young man who was going to, well, he did graduate from high school last December, and I looked into what he was going to be able to do it for employment after he graduated from high school, and it was pretty much nothing. There was no job opportunities for deaf people. And so we started, a friend of mine and I started interviewing young people who have graduated from high school that are deaf, and none of them had jobs. They were just hanging out at home watching TV, doing nothing. And when we interviewed them, they talked about how much they wanted to work and give back to society and have an independent life.
Right.
So that's where this was born.
Okay, so this was a restaurant that you opened up just after the pandemic, right?
Right.
So in the middle of the pandemic? Is that the best time to open a restaurant?
Well, you know, remember the faith.
The faith.
This is built on faith.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, we just had to. It was the time to do it.
Yeah, the opportunity came, so you took it. Okay,
right.
So how many employees do you have here now?
In the restaurant, we have 6 deaf employees and 2 hearing employees.
Okay.
So we have 4 that work in the restaurant as waiters and in the bar, and then we have 2 that work in the kitchen, and then we have our main chef is hearing, and our administrator is hearing. Across the street, we have a vivero that's associated. It's part of the same business, and we have 1 deaf man who works there.
Okay. So now, when you told me a little bit about this earlier, and that's what I'm really interested in. I love system and process.
Yeah.
I think managing people is impossible. Managing systems is the only way to keep your sanity if you're going to start a business. So, you've told me a little bit about that. Will you tell me about your systems for training deaf people? Right.
Well, you know, one of the things we worried about was how the customers were going to communicate with the waiters. I mean, how are you going to tell? I mean, when you think about when you go to a restaurant and all the options that you have for saying something special or something, you know, and so we have menus that have been in plastic, and then we have markers, so people can mark what they want, and then mark things that they want to change, or just write on the menu. If you wanted something completely different, you can just write it out on the menu.
Okay.
Then we have a card that has like frequently asked questions. So
that's
that
the one I saw right when I came in, and it was super cool. It was
right.
like, yes.
Right. So you know, where's the bathroom? I mean, it was like, okay, of course they're going to want to know how to get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So you just mark that on the card, and they'll let you know. Then in the kitchen, well, you know, it was amazing. Our chef, it was like the very first day he was here. He was like already learning how to say things in sign language.
Okay.
I mean, he was just absorbing it. But he's done some things about, and I think they've made up their own signs, like things for julienne vegetable. I mean, I don't think anybody knew had a sign
language.
You know,
Yeah.
but they've, you know, he has a whiteboard in there, and they're like, okay, he shows them how you cut something, and then they write it out, and then they come up with the sign. So they're developing their own language in the kitchen.
Okay.
So, you know, that's, and one of the prerequisites for working here was that you had to be able to read and write, because not all deaf people
can read and
write.
Right.
So that was like a fundamental, because that's what allowed us to be doing these processes.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting, right when I got here, and I was like, okay, it's, you know, deaf employees, and wow, this is such a cool thing. Is it a social enterprise? Is it a charity? And it's not a charity. And I love that. Can you tell just a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm involved in a nonprofit, and it was kind of the first impulse. It's like, well, of course do it as that. But then when we really analyzed it, it seemed much better to do it as a business, because one of our goals is to demonstrate to other business people that you can hire deaf people. It's a viable option. And if we are doing it as a nonprofit, well, then you could think, oh, that's just the donations are covering the losses. But if we're doing it as a commercial enterprise, then we're saying no. You can make it. You can actually be a viable business and employ deaf people or differently abled people.
Okay, and then about how many deaf people are in Nicaragua right now?
About 14,000
Okay.
is what they say.
14,000, and the majority of them are most likely willing and capable of working?
I would think so,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Because now that we've been open about 2.5 months and publicizing on Facebook, and we're receiving emails from deaf people wanting to work.
Wonderful, yeah.
And so we're starting to put together a file of deaf people interested in jobs.
Right.
And then, honestly, we're in the process of creating the corporation, and it's Empoderar Capacitados Diferentes. It's empowering differently abled is the name of our SA. And we really want to be beyond deaf. That's really our goal. And that's one of the reasons for the vivero is that I'm
Just
hoping.
for people that don't know what you're saying, that's a garden
Oh, I'm
store
sorry.
across the street. And when you're coming into San Juan, you see the garden
Yes,
on the
that's
left,
right.
and
That's
that's
right.
amazing. We could do a whole show on that one.
Right.
But really quick, it's competitively priced.
Yes,
You have
absolutely.
beautiful plants over there.
Right.
And you have 1 or 2 deaf employees.
One deaf employee
One deaf
right now.
employee over
Right,
there
yeah.
that is watering, and he looks like he's having a blast. Like he must love his job over there. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, sidetrack. Back
Thank
to
you.
the story.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
that
problem.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I love that that's the plant nursery is part of this because I envision that can open up to say someone who's autistic can be over there watering plants.
Wow, I get goosebumps because it's so cool because
Yeah.
it's not that charity. It's
Right.
like literally like
Right, they're
you're
working.
empowering people by letting them work.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you're building the systems that make it so that it works.
Right.
Right? So now you mentioned a little bit about, or I may have said the word incubator, but training staff, would you want them to move on to another location and bring in a new person and train them?
Absolutely. That's one of our main goals is that our staff here will be able to move on to other restaurants. I mean, that would be, for me, that's the measure of a success, is that they quit and because they got a job somewhere else in town that they feel is like moving them up. And honestly, the young man that is the kitchen assistant, Adrian, he's progressing so rapidly in his knowledge, and he is so passionate about cooking. I see that it won't be long.
He's moving on, huh?
He's going to be moving on, which would be so awesome.
Yeah, that's the most selfless employer you could possibly be, to train and invest in somebody and want them to leave.
Yeah.
So it speaks volumes for the training that you must have back here. Let's talk a little bit about what you offer, like for people that want to come in and support your business.
Right.
What's on the menu?
Right. Well, we have breakfast, and which we have the American and Nicaraguan style breakfast, and a really wonderful huevos rancheros. We get our tortillas from a lady in the neighboring community, so they're really fresh. She brings us tortillas every few days, and then we have some yogurt made by one of our partners. So she makes yogurt, and then for lunch we have quite a extensive menu for lunch. We have a great ceviche, but sometimes I just have ceviche for lunch because it's so good. They make it.
I want that.
They make it to order. It's like, oh, so good.
Wow.
And but then we have imported beef and pork dishes are really, really good. Hamburgers. A lot of people. There's some regular customers that come in and they have a hamburger every time because they just
Really?
they want to try something else, but they tell me I just love the hamburger. And the bun is made by a woman in town. So
I'm getting so hungry now.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
part of our goal too is that we're supporting local
sourcing.
Local sourcing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And so the hamburger buns are really good. And we get quesadillas and.
Let's go on. Is there dinner?
Well, this isn't really the greatest place, dinner because so many people.
Yeah.
They come by in the day.
This is an afternoon
It's
kind of
more
latest.
for lunch,
Yeah.
afternoon. We are just about to start an asado. So if you see the yellow toldas
What
out
does an
there,
asado mean?
it means grilled meat with the platanos. You see
Yeah.
the women with the grills on
Totally.
the side
Oh,
of the
yeah.
road.
All
Yeah.
of it. The chicken lady.
Yeah,
I
right.
love her. Yeah, she's my
Right.
favorite.
We're gonna be doing that across the.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
gonna be our dinner.
Like a drive-in, drive out?
Drive in, drive
Yeah.
out. Just pick up some grilled chicken.
Fantastic.
Or some, yeah.
So anytime you're coming into San Juan, kids are super starving, you can pull right in, grab it, and be gone.
That's it.
Great.
That's it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Then I wanted to know what you had on the menu, and I'm so glad I asked because now I want a hamburger, I want ceviche.
Good choices.
Yeah.
And we do have desserts too that are homemade desserts.
Really?
Yeah, like little cheesecake, like cupcake-sized cheesecakes, and
Oh, fantastic. All right, well, I'm hoping to get to sample some of this here in a little bit. But back to the experience. So that's
Right.
what really got me was when I drove by and I saw the sign and I thought that was a cool sign, and then I saw the palapa and I was like, yeah, I love palapas. And then eventually I got touched on Facebook and was like, check out this place, it's got deaf employees, and I was like, all right, finally, I'll stop, right?
Right.
And then I came in and I was all by myself and I got this experience that I'll never forget. It was amazing. This young lady over here, I'm sure she'll be in the video, comes up to me with this huge smile and says something in sign language and points at a sign, and I'm like, oh wow, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to try and order a club soda. I have a problem ordering a club soda in Spanish, so let's see if I can do it in sign language. But we made it through the whole experience, and it was such a cool thing.
yeah, yeah.
That I've told probably 10 people I've sat down and told about that experience already,
Yeah.
and now it has to be done on video.
Right.
So
Cool.
tell me a little bit about that experience, please.
Yeah, well, that's part of what makes this restaurant unique is that it's, there's really good food here, but then there's also this opportunity to interact with deaf people, and they love, and that's one thing about our staff is they're so friendly and they love showing you signs and helping you communicate with them, and was giving them a little window into their world, but just the idea of what is communication. And one of the things I've learned is, we think of communication as words. They think of communication as images. So when you're doing signs, it's like you're acting out what
Yeah.
you're thinking, and it's really cool.
That was so interesting that I could understand what she was saying, but
Yeah.
I don't know sign language, but I could
Yeah,
understand by
that's
her
right.
face muscles and the, what was going on.
Well, and one of the problems we thought about wearing, masks, but when you do signs, your face is really important.
Yeah.
It's a big part of any sign, and like, it's very hard for deaf people to wear masks
I
because
bet.
they can't communicate.
Yeah.
And then they also read lips, and so they can't.
Yeah, now it's all gone.
Yeah, thank goodness for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also have a chessboard set up because a couple of our staff love to play chess.
Okay.
And so people are welcome to come in anytime, play
It's
chess.
a beautiful chessboard,
Yeah,
too.
so play chess with your friends or come in and challenge one of our deaf staff
Oh.
and have another experience with deaf people.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that is something super cool to have an experience with a deaf person, because I don't think I know a deaf person.
Right.
So coming in here and getting to interact with deaf people, and especially for my kids, I think is a really cool, eye-opening experience for them. And I hope lots of people get to come here and check this out and take that experience home with them.
Yeah, we bought some like flashcards, which you would use to learn a language, but that's for kids when kids come, so they can pick out. We have a stack of cards with different animals on it.
Okay.
So the kids can pull out animals, and then the staff member will show them how to do the sign.
Yeah.
And, Tortuga.
Okay. Cool.
So that's fun for kids.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I hope this message gets out there, and the cause is it's amazing. And I love that it's a business,
Yeah.
not a charity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Well, thank you.
Something we say on the end of everything Nicaragua
Yeah.
videos is adios nos vemos.
Okay.
So we go, I've said everything I need to say. And as we say every day on everything Nicaragua,
Adios, nos vemos.
Maybe a fist pump. There it is.